So we received some very interesting news today from a galaxy far, far away from the official Star Wars website, StarWars.com. Game of Thrones creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss to write and produce a new series of Star Wars films. And I want to talk about what this means for the future of the franchise and where these movies could go. Now, first and foremost, I want to say that I know some folks are thinking, well, wait a minute. I thought George R.R. Martin was the creator. Well, he is. He is the author of the original novels. What they're referring to is the television series Game of Thrones, which is ridiculously popular, okay? Ridiculously popular. And these guys, who are talented like crazy, and they've helped make that show such a big hit, are now coming into Star Wars to write and produce some new movies. Now, it says here in the article that these movies are not going to be part of the Skywalker saga, so they won't be episodes 10, 11, and 12, and they are not going to be part of the Rian Johnson trilogy that's coming out, which is also not a part of the episodic Skywalker saga. So, essentially what we have here, folks, is we have literally 9 or more movies coming out in the next decade or so, which means that if they stick to doing one movie a year, there's been rumors they might release 2 movies a year, but as of right now it's just going to be 1 movie a year, then we've got Star Wars movies all the way booked for the next 10 years. Because, well, we'll get to that here in a minute, but it says here, Kathleen Kennedy says, David and Dan are some of the best storytellers working today, said Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm. Their command of complex characters, depth of story, and richness of mythology will break new ground and boldly push Star Wars in ways I find incredibly exciting. Now, I agree with that to a degree. Remember, though, Game of Thrones, the Fire and Ice books, are written by George R.R. Martin, so without him putting in that real, because he's the guy who really wrote these complex characters, but I do agree that these two guys are great at putting it, on the screen and whatnot. It's going to be interesting to see how they do their own series, their own trilogy. Now, what this means is that we're not going to get, based on the information we have here, if they release 1 movie a year, we're not going to get episodes 10, 11, and 12 for a decade, if they even decide to go in that direction. Because as of right now, we have 9 movies. If David Benioff and D.B. Weiss are doing a trilogy, which we presume they are, because I don't think it's going to be 4 movies. Maybe they will, but let's just say it's a trilogy, right? Let's count them up. So we've got Solo coming out this year, Episode 9 next year, and then the Kenobi film. That's 3 movies. Rian Johnson's trilogy is 3 movies, and then these guys' trilogy is 3 movies. That is 9 movies going all the way until 2029. Well, no, 2027? Yeah, 2027, right around there. And unless they announce it'll be 2 movies a year, or if they announce that there will be more, they're going to split this up and maybe put these out later, that tells me that we're in for Star Wars every single year. Now, the one thing that I must say about this is that, yes, as a fan of Star Wars, even though I was let down by Last Jedi, and I'm bracing myself for Solo's let me down, it's one of those things where I am, as a fan, excited to see more Star Wars movies. I do want to see that, but I got to be honest, doing 1 movie a year and continuing doing 1 movie a year, or even more movies if they decide to go that route, it's going to kill the speciality of Star Wars. Back when it was 1 movie every 3 years, whether you lived through the original trilogy, which I did not, I was born after those movies came out, or the prequels, which I did live through, waiting 3 years for a new movie was exciting. Even back then with the prequels, they get a lot of hate, but when the prequels were first coming out, they were very, very exciting. Phantom Menace was huge. Attack of the Clones is like, okay, maybe they got it right this time. They didn't. And then Revenge of the Sith is like, okay, well, this one was better. It was still an exciting time as a fan to be a Star Wars fan. You had that 3-year buildup. Now with them putting out 1 movie a year, there's something called the law of diminishing returns, which is, the more you put product out, the less special it becomes. It's sort of like, the idea that if you have steak every night, you get tired of steak. And it's kind of like that with Star Wars movies. Now, 1 a year, is a good, I'd say it's a good formula. If they start doing 3 a year like Marvel, I'm thinking they're going to be pushing it a bit, even though Marvel's been very successful at it. I think it's going to be interesting to see where this goes because, 1 a year, like I said, is fine, but that leaves more room for error. And obviously, when it comes to Star Wars movies, a lot of fans usually have it like 4 good ones, 4 bad ones, or 5 good ones, 3 bad ones, or 6 good ones, 2 bad ones. Nobody ever loves, I mean, I don't know anybody who really truly loves all 8 films. You know, there's people who like them, but I don't know anyone who actually truly loves them. Well, I know a couple people. Let me take that back. I know a couple folks, but most traditional fans have a couple Star Wars movies they're not really big fans of, but when you put out this many Star Wars movies in a short span compared to the previous films, you know, it leaves more room for error. So even though you have talented people working on these films, you've got ILM working, you know, you've got a good crop of people working on these movies, you're still leaving a lot of room for error because of how much product they're going to be putting out. Now, one thing I do like is that this trilogy, same thing with Rian Johnson's, is not part of the Skywalker saga. I did a video about Reylo a few weeks ago talking about how I do believe that with the end of Episode 9, we're going to see the death of Ben Solo in that movie. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but I think that Kylo Ren will die in that film. And I know Reylo fans don't want that, but I think, you know, whether or not he gets redeemed, I think he dies, and with his death, the Skywalker saga is over. So now, with these movies, they can explore not only other parts of the galaxy, but other timelines as well. Now, what do I want to see from you know, the Game of Thrones guys? Let me tell you what I want. Now, we know that Rian Johnson's trilogy is not an Old Republic movie. We know it's going to be some kind of side story that he hasn't even thought up yet. With these guys, though, with Benioff and Weiss, I want these guys to direct an Old Republic movie. I think with what they've done with Game of Thrones, they're very talented. I think that if they tell the story of like Darth Revan, or if they go back, you know, pre-Phantom Menace, you know, the Sith Jedi War, and they really cover a lot of that stuff in these movies, the prequel, I guess you could say, you know, I think that would work. I really do. I think it's going to work. Now, I've already seen people complaining on social media about how, oh, it's 2 white guys again. Why aren't we seeing a woman director? Why aren't we seeing a person of color directing? I don't think you should worry about that because it's clear now that Disney and Star Wars and Lucasfilm, they're going to be making Star Wars movies forever. It's like Mr. Burns said, don't forget you're here forever. So we're getting Star Wars movies forever for the next 9 years, folks. Next 9 years. Unless one of them really flops and then they change everything. You know, for all we know, like, the world might end, dude. Like, we might have, like, a cataclysmic event happen and we don't even see the end of the Rian Johnson trilogy, right? And it's like, you know, I think that if these movies are successful, you are going to see a woman director. You are going to see a person of color director. You're probably going to even see a freaking artificial, you know, AI robot directing one of these damn movies at this rate. Like, it's going to go on forever. It's Star Wars. They always make money. So I think until Star Wars stops making money, which might be never at this point. It doesn't matter if you hated Last Jedi or not. Star Wars is going to keep cranking out money until the box office really reflects it, then we'll know the difference. But as long as they keep making Star Wars movies, folks, this is what's going to happen. So, again, I'm excited because I do like what these guys can do. They are very good storytellers. I agree with that. But I like the fact that it's going to be a separate story because now you don't have to worry about fans disliking them butchering Luke Skywalker or, you know, changing Han Solo, making him into a punk or whatever they're going to do with the Solo movie. I mean, I don't know if they're going to do that, but a lot of fans are worried about that. If you're going to create brand new characters that are not Skywalkers or bring in some of those EU characters, Legends characters, I think there's a better shot of them doing it right doing that. And I do think that if you're going to make a Revan film or a trilogy on Revan, which is one of the most popular, maybe the most popular non-canon Legends character ever. I can't even think of another one besides him. I think that these are the guys to do it. I really do, in my opinion. We'll see. We'll see. Last Jedi really soured me from getting invested in Star Wars. I don't really care as much as I used to about like the new books coming out because none of them even matter to begin with. But I do still think there's hope, and I do still think as a fan that these movies have the potential to be great. Same thing with Rian Johnson's trilogy. I didn't agree with what he did in the movie. He made a lot of things that I didn't like, made a lot of mistakes in my opinion, but I still think if he got his own trilogy separate from everything else, he could deliver on it. That's my opinion, though. Some people don't agree with me. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of mistakes that Last Jedi made. I've covered them so many times on this channel. Hopefully those mistakes will not happen in Rian Johnson's story, and we'll get a nice, you know, trilogy with likable characters, a great story, and something interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. Appreciate all of your comments. And are you excited to have the Game of Thrones guys working on a Star Wars movie? I expect to see more things like this where you have, kind of younger, on the finger on the pulse directors doing movies. So, Star Wars movies. So I look forward to that. Anyways, let me know. Thank you. I'll talk to y'all very soon.